everyone, Gilligan Kruger 0829 here, and welcome to day 4 of my Harry Potter movie series review marathon. Today we're going to be talking about the 4th movie in the wildly popular franchise, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire from 2005. Now, as you all probably know, whether you've seen it or not, this one is very different from its 3 predecessors in several ways, but I'm only going to touch on a few of them. Which Potter topic am I going to talk about the most, you ask? Well, place your bets, because we're entering the Triwizard Tournament. This is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, one difference you'll notice right off the beginning is that this movie does not start off at the Dursleys. Not that that's a big issue to me. The Dursleys are... yeah, they're not in the movie. Instead, this movie actually starts at the Weasleys' house, or the Burrow as it's called, with Harry, Hermione, the entire Weasley family, and new characters. Cedric Diggory, played by Robert Pattinson, and his father are preparing to see the Quidditch World Cup. After the game, however, they and all the attendees are attacked by a group of dark wizards called the Death Eaters. Harry narrowly escapes this, but in the process, sees a man he recognizes from a reoccurring nightmare he's been having recently. But we don't really get much time to figure out who this character is, because once again, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are getting ready to go to Hogwarts for their 4th year. This year, however, there's a difference, because in addition to a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Alistair, or Mad-Eye Moody, played by Brendan Gleeson, Hogwarts will be playing host to the Triwizard Tournament. This is, of course, a legendary tournament in where 3 schools come together, 3 wizards from each of the school, or witches, whichever, compete in 3 dangerous events. Reoccurring 3s. Be lucky it's not 3 6s, but that's the big issue that everybody is ready to see. The Goblet of Fire, which is how the movie is named after, selects its first 3, Fleur Delacour, I hope I said her name right, Victor Crumb, and Cedric himself, but after that it also submits Harry's name. And this is an issue because Harry's supposedly too young to have entered his name in the cup at all, yet alone participate. But after talks, Harry is told to participate, and he becomes part of the tournament. And the movie that follows is sort of a multi-movie, like we have following the events of the tournament, as well as the mystery that's leading us to find out how Harry's name got in the goblet in the first place, and how that man in the beginning is related to all of this. Now, for some reason, I still don't really know why, this has the most nostalgic memories out of all the Harry Potter movies. Maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times, but this, I will definitely say, is my favorite Harry Potter movie so far. There are so many things that work on it, just from the story alone, which goes back to the entire mystery that we got in Chamber of Secrets and Sorcerer's Stone that didn't really play as much of an... was as important, there we go, as it was in Prisoner of Azkaban. Here we have a lot of clues that in this one are actually really subtle. You'll probably look by them and not even think they're clues, and they lead to a much darker payoff. This is where the movies really started to get dark, as opposed to some of the magical antics of the first 3 movies, which I'll touch on later in this review. But the rest of the praises, and I have quite a few of them, kind of branch off from the story itself, starting with how they filmed the scenes in the tournament. Like, there's one scene where Harry has to escape from a dragon and catch a golden egg on his broomstick, which I actually think is one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. There's an event where he has to save some of his friends from a group of mermaids. No, not the hot Disney kind. These mermaids. I have to stop showing myself that picture. And finally, the 3rd event, I'm not spoiling too much by telling you what this is a meticulously crafted hedge labyrinth that in many ways reminds me of the myth of Theseus and the labyrinth from Greek mythology. And I think this is, again, J.K. Rowling diving into mythology for parts of her story, and it really enhances it. I will always praise this aspect of the books and movies. But in addition to that, we have some new characters like Moody, the 3 champions, the 2 headmasters, and even some minor characters from the first 3 movies are flushed out a little bit more in this one. But the main focus is still on Harry, Ron, and Hermione, who I think act much more mature, even more so than they did in Prisoner of Azkaban this time around. The main reason being Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson all play these characters out as teenagers instead of kids. Obviously, they are teenagers now, but I think it's done really well. Like, there's one scene about a third of the way through the movie where Hermione is trying to tell Harry that Hagrid is looking for him, and Harry is starting to talk back when Hermione says the line, "I'm not an owl." Essentially, she's saying, "I'm not your delivery girl, go find Hagrid yourself." And I think this line not only is well written, but very well delivered by Emma, which... Oh yeah, and she's hot in this one, too, so more points on her for that. But, again, they're just so much more mature this time around. Like, there's a small little feud between Ron and Harry in this one, and also a small feud between Ron and Hermione. Ron is a more irritable character. There's even a little romantic hint between Harry and Hermione. Little hint being the key words here. Because most of us know how Harry and Hermione are going to end up romantically at the end of all this, but the rest of us can still dream. And, you know, I think the best thing about this movie, however, is not so much what it does on its own, but how it compares to the other movies. And I kind of talked about this earlier in the review, how the first 3 movies felt very magical. They gave us the real sense of what Hogwarts was like, but they didn't really dive into mature themes, as I would have liked it sometimes. And occasionally the characters were a little more whimsical than mature. And from Order of the Phoenix on, it's been the exact opposite. They've been really dark and mature, but not really grasping the magic that I think these films could have had, that sometimes the books really did well. Again, I haven't gotten too far in the book series, but it's just a personal gripe. And Goblet of Fire, I think, really balances both of them well. We still have the magic and whimsy that Chamber, Stone, and Prisoner had, but now we've got a lot of dark new elements. Like, this is the introduction of the 3 unforgivable curses. We have the Imperious Curse, which renders you of your free will. The Cruciatus Curse, which causes intense, torturous pain. I'll let you figure where Crucio comes from. And of course we have Avada Kedavra, or Kadavra, I'm not sure, I mishear them all the time, which is the Killing Curse, the so-called curse that Harry is the only person who's ever survived, and these also provide a dark atmosphere to the movie. It's magical, it's mature, and it's going to please kids as much as it's going to please adults. I think this is the high point of the Harry Potter movies so far, and it's definitely a memorable film. Now, there's one problem I have. Well, I have a few little nitpicks about it, but the one problem I have is still kind of the same as the one I had with Prisoner of Azkaban. And this movie is really straightforward, almost to a fault at sometimes, because, again, we don't get the sense of where Harry's come from in the summer. We don't know if he's had a horrible summer or a somewhat decent summer. We don't really get to see that, and I kind of wouldn't have minded it. But even after that, some of the scenes are kind of rushed through a little bit. I won't name off any, but just a small little gripe. And again, I have the little nitpicks throughout, like, I would have liked some of the characters to be fleshed out a little bit more, not like given 30 minutes each. Let's not even go there. And one small little question I have, just to, this isn't a gripe to the movie, I'm just curious, is what is up with Harry's hairdo in this one? In the other movies, Radcliffe's hair is combed down nicely for the most part. In this one, it looks like he constantly has his hands on one of those static electricity plasma balls that we see in elementary school field trips. And it's not just Harry, it's Ron, but I don't know, this is just a little pet peeve of mine. It's kind of like the whole fade to black thing I talked about in No. We're not starting that whole fiasco again. But everything aside, this is still my favorite Harry Potter movie. I think it blends elements for adults, children, and teens into one spectacular film. If you can only see one of the Harry Potter movies, granted, go see all of them, but if you can only see one, I would say see this one and ask everyone else to spell out the whole story for you. And as such, I give Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire 4.5 stars out of 5. And that's 4 days, halfway through my Harry Potter series review, and still we're at a very good pace. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. And until next time, peace. Lumos!